I hope all you high school basketball players out there had an opportunity to watch the UConn women's basketball team on Sunday win the national championship. It was Coach Geno Arriemma's 12th national championship at UConn. And while it was enjoyable to watch as a fan, on this channel, we like to look to what we can learn from their success. And there are a few things that stand out, and that's what I want to share with you today. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Hard Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. So when I was watching this last Sunday, UConn women's basketball team win another national championship. In fact, Coach Auriemma's 12th national championship. I started reflecting back on when I got my first high school head coaching job as a girls basketball coach. And at the time, I took over a program that really wasn't all that great. They had hardly won any games the previous years, but I had a lot of players that were really hungry and had some, raw athletic ability, and they just needed some player development. They needed some player development both on and off the court, and I wanted to be the best at player development that I could be. So I knew at the time, obviously, the premier women's college basketball team was UConn. And Coach Ariemma was the premier coach across the nation. And so what did I do? I thought, if I want to be the best at player development, I need to soak up as much as I can from programs like that, from coaches like that. So I wrote the program, UConn, a letter, and Coach Ariemma a letter. And I said, hey, I see you've got your summer camp program. I'd love to be a camp coach during this summer at your Geno Arriemma UConn basketball camps. And luckily, they chose me as a coach. I got to go out. I went to Storrs, Connecticut, and I got to be around Coach Auriemma, his coaching staff, his players, the whole program, and all I wanted to do is soak up as much as I could on their approach, both on and off the court. Any little tidbits I could pick up from the best college basketball program in the nation. And it was an unbelievable experience. So when I'm watching UConn on Sunday win another national championship, I feel I have a little connection to that because I was connected to the program. So I'm always rooting on Connecticut in the women's game to win because I have that connection. But also knowing kind of the story of, where UConn came from and to today's success here, Coach Ariemma's 12th national championship, I started thinking there's some things that we could take away from this for you, the high school basketball player, that you could learn from their success, that you could learn from their accomplishment. So that's what I want to share today. Now, before I get started, I always like to let you know that I have a download for you. It's the 8 intangible skills that coaches love to see in players. And so you can download that by either going to the link below or simply going to hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles, and I'll get you that. It's in a checklist form with some ways that you can start working on and implementing those skills that coaches love. So be sure and do that. Now, the UConn story of when Coach Auriemma showed up. He shows up in Storrs, Connecticut, and there wasn't much there. And I say there wasn't much there because if you ever visited Storrs, there's not much there. But also in the program, there wasn't much there, okay? He showed up, and their team had only won maybe 8, 9 games for the past however many seasons, 4, 5, 6 seasons. They just hadn't had a lot of success, okay? Not only had the team not had a lot of success? The team itself was made up of a lot of really good student athletes, but student first, maybe athlete second, and there wasn't a lot of Division I talent on that team. In fact, in his memoir, he talks about maybe there's, like one Division I player on that team. Not only did he not have the talent, he didn't really have the facilities. They practiced in this field house, which had the court had a track around it. It was this old building. They had to pull a drape around to kind of block out all the noise of everybody else that was doing, running or practicing or having activities in the field house while they were, practicing. They didn't have the facilities. They didn't have the money. They didn't have any of that, right? I've been in that field house because during the camps we utilized that field house as well. Let me tell you something, it sucks, right? So here he has a program, he's just taken over, doesn't have the greatest players, doesn't have the greatest facilities, doesn't have the greatest really anything, okay? And it was so bad that he felt they couldn't really even scrimmage a lot that first year in practice because the players weren't good enough to really scrimmage. So they only got to really play in games. What did they do instead? This is one of the first things that I think we can all take from their success. UConn's success, these years of championships, started on breakdown drills. It started on changing bad habits to good habits. Good fundamental habits, both on the court and off the court, because he didn't just have to adjust how they played on the court and their fundamentals on the court, he had to change their mindset and how they thought off the court. Okay? The same themes that we talk about on this channel all the time. So it doesn't matter where you are in your career. It doesn't matter what success your team has had. If all these years of success, 12 national championships at the collegiate level, were built on the foundation of creating good habits, both on the court and off the court, then it doesn't matter where you are in your career. That should be a focus for you. That should be a focus. You should never, at the high school level or wherever you are in your basketball career, you probably should never say, I don't need those breakdown drills, because they broke down everything. They broke down setting screens, using screens, passing, catching, shooting off the dribble, just everything. Ball handling. Everything that you could think of as far as a breakdown, that's what they spent to set the foundation for where UConn has become. And when I was watching the game on Sunday, I noticed those foundational, skills are still inherent in the teaching that they do in that program. You can see how fundamental his players play, right? Even today, yes, he gets much better players. Paige Bueckers is arguably, the best player in the country right now. But he still teaches those fundamental skills. And so you're never, no matter where you are in your career, you're never too big to do those breakdown drills, to develop both on the court and off the court, because that was the foundation of their success. What are a couple of the other things that I noticed? The post-game interviews. So in the post-game interviews, whether they were interviewing Coach Auriemma or Paige Bueckers or another player, all the interviews revolved around relationships. And we talk a lot about the most important thing you're ever going to get from your basketball career is your relationships with coaches, with your teammates, with the families of other players, just the fans. It's all about relationships. And that's what they were talking about. They were talking about their love for each other. Player to player, coach to player. They were talking about their relationships and how that bonded them as a team. So if you think right now, I'm working on my on-court skills, but that relationship stuff isn't for me. I'm too big for that relationship stuff. Think again, because here is a program that is based upon relationships. And not just relationships between coaches and players and players and starters and things like that. Because the other thing that struck me that you can learn from their success is when Paige Bueckers was being interviewed, she wasn't mentioning her on-court, what happened on the court. She wasn't mentioning her accomplishments. She wasn't even mentioning, the starters or anything like that. You know what she started talking about? It's all the behind-the-scenes roles. The practice players, the trainers, the managers, the coaches, the bench players, everybody that contributed to the success that UConn just had. She talked about all those roles. And so what I took from that and what you can take from that is it doesn't matter what you're doing today as a player. It doesn't matter if you're not a starter, you're just a bench role player. You just get some time in practice. You don't get in the game. Maybe you're just a manager right now. Not just a manager, but maybe you're a manager right now. All these roles contribute to the success of your team because we're in a team sport. If you only want to worry about being an individual, you need to go play an individual sport. So it doesn't matter where now that you can aspire to make the team. You can aspire to get off the bench. You can aspire to be a starter. You can aspire to be, not an assistant, but a head coach. You can aspire to greater things, but embrace the role you have today because it's all those little roles. And Paige Bueckers said it so well. It takes a village in order to accomplish big goals and big team goals and to win their 12th national championship. So those are 3 things that I think you can take from their success and apply to kind of your mindset. 1, focus on the fundamentals, focus on building those great habits. Number 2, focus on relationships and building relationships during your basketball journey. And number 3, doesn't matter what role you're playing today, you might want a different role someday, but embrace that role because they all contribute to the success, greater successes of a team, of a school, of a program. So that's what I had for you today. Just a big congratulations to the UConn women's basketball team and some things that I think you as players out there can take from their success. Until next week, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.